afternoon, everyone. My name is Samantha Mowat. I'm a clairvoyant psychic and a contactee, and today I'm coming to you from the beautiful 1,000-year-old Viking village in Bursay, Scotland. Oh my goodness, how does it get any better than that? And so, today I'd like to share with you an encounter I had on July 19th, 2014. And this is a really interesting encounter because unlike a lot of my encounters with extraterrestrials and multidimensionals where it's seeing invisible outlines that are moving around, so when they're being cloaked or operating on a different dimension, or the astral projection encounters or encounters along that nature, this is a physical encounter. And what really sticks out about this encounter to me is it started earlier in the evening, and I had gone outside because I was walking down to the lake. I wanted to see the beautiful sunset that was going on. And while this was happening, I remember feeling the strong presence of multidimensional or extraterrestrial craft above our house. But I looked around going, I don't see anything. What's going on? And so, anyway, I went to bed. And later that night, I awoke, and it was pretty interesting because I ran to the window because I could feel such a strong energetic presence, such a strong feeling of craft above the house. It felt like the air was more alive, like it was fully charged, like it was almost like it was pulsating or emitting its strong vibrational resonance. And so anyway, as I ran over to the window from my bed, I opened the window and I stuck my head straight up, and I'm looking at the stars, and there, right above the house, is this very large, black, triangular craft. And there were these, I believe, red lights, one at each corner. And as it's moving above the house, I remember sending it some sort of message, but I don't recall what it was exactly. And then the next thing I knew, the craft went from above the house to floating down the street over towards a dock just down the road. And when it had stopped there, I was looking out, and I was looking going, okay, well, where is it? Where'd it go? What happened? And then 3 or 4 of these interesting looking beings came out of the craft. Now, these were different than many of the beings I had been interacting with at that point, because up until then, I had encountered beings such as Pleiadians, I had encountered light beings, I had encountered grays and tans, and different forms of mantis, things of that nature. But this kind of being kind of took me back a bit, because they were so far away. I saw what looked like an obvious bipedal humanoid form, but it was wearing black clothing that was different than the traditional clothing that I've seen many extraterrestrials wear. These beings were wearing black clothing that went from their neck all the way down to their feet and their ankles, things of that nature, but they almost seemed to be wearing some sort of cape with them, which kind of threw me off. And so I looked at their heads and thought, well, those are interesting heads. Those look more elongated, but they walked very, very quickly. And as I noticed that they were coming towards the house where I was staying, I got so excited. I opened the door and I ran down the house, ran down the stairs, all the way to the other end of the house where the sliding glass doors were by the living room. And as I got to these sliding glass doors, these beings were already coming into the home. Pardon me, it's very, very windy and I'm sniffly. Anyway, these beings were coming into the home, and as I looked at them, they were probably about 7 feet tall, well, very close, either 6.5 to 7. Oh, ladies are, that's okay. Anyway, as I was looking at these beings, it was quite interesting because they were very excited to see me. They were Caucasian in color. They were oddly enough a form of Conehead type beings, the best way in which I can describe them, because their heads were quite elongated. And please take into account that when I say Conehead, they do not look like the Coneheads in the movie Conehead. Their cones are not nearly as elongated. They didn't have a distinct point to them. Rather than going straight up, as the movie shows, which I thought was kind of weird when I actually watched the movie after, these ones, their head only went back probably, like, I don't know, maybe that far and on a slight angle, so it was very, very different and quite interesting. Now, all the beings that come to see me in this encounter, the 3 or 4 of them were male, and we seemed to be sharing a very rapid communication. It was all telepathic, they were very smiley, their energy was excited, and so anyway, they had told me that, okay, we'd like to take you with us and we'd like to go somewhere. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And so as they walked out the door, 2 were ahead of me, and I believe 1 was behind me. And so as I was just exiting the sliding glass door and stepping onto the deck, they looked down at the ground, and then we saw there was this very small red bird. And the next part kind of confused me as it was happening, because the next thing I knew, these beings were very rapidly speaking to one another telepathically, and they were speaking a dialect that was different from the one in which they were communicating with me. And to roughly summarize what it is they were discussing, they were looking at this little red bird and they were taking it to be some sort of, not omen, but more of a indication that now is not the appropriate time to be in communication with me. They had roughly come to the realization that a family member of mine had just passed. It was my father-in-law, and that something around that energy wasn't quite what they were looking for with communicating with me at this time. And they end up bowing their heads and saying, I'm sorry, sorry for your loss," type thing. And the next thing I know, I found myself suddenly asleep in my bed. Now, this was a very odd encounter in a lot of ways, because a lot of my encounters do tend to be, well, more the astral or more on a psychic level. You're using more of the multidimensional awareness that we all possess, but takes a little bit of fine-tuning to practice and use on your day-to-day life to really interact with many of these beings. But this encounter was such a strong physical encounter that when I woke up the next morning, I woke up and I was in a bit of a disbelief, like, did I really just meet these beings? Oh my goodness, that is so cool that they're out there. And then a very dear friend of mine had said, well, you do realize that the reason why Hollywood resonates with so many people in the movies that they're expressing is they're taking real information about what people have contacted when it comes to these beings, what they wear and what they look like, and they take that in and put it into movies. That way people actually have that understanding or that familiarity, that sense of recognition. And so, sorry, going off on a bit of a tangent, but that's just one of the encounters that I had at that time. Well, I'm going to go make another video and find another beautiful place. I hope you have a great day. Peace, love, and light. Bye!